over here.
Okay, my name's John Protochnik,
Let me have
class of 1978. I'm still working with the telephone company. I have a wife, 2 children, 2 sons, Brian and John, and a granddaughter, 8 years old.
And where do you live, John?
I live in North Ridgeville, Ohio.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm George Martin, class of 54. Have 8 children, still married. The children are all over the world. Have 9 grandchildren. Most of the daughters I have are married to Army men. I still work in real estate. 20% of my proceeds go to a fund at Benedictine, a special family fund. And what else can I say?
And what's the name of that company that you're working for?
Sarver Realty, S-A-R-V-E-R. In the book on Green Road. Still active in a lot of things, senior citizen advocate, and I'm a chaplain down at the Justice Center.
Don't give me the finger now.
Okay.
Whatever's left over, the investor, you know. Yes. Or if you need it over to a university or
The wires, they're outside.
He wants to express his appreciation for being invited here. His son Mark is also a teacher at Benedictine presently. And Mr. Francioli, as far as I know, never failed anybody. And the way he graded kids, he told me this personally, not to say anything to you guys, but if you were an Italian, you got an A. If you were a Slovak, you got a B. If you were Hungarian, you got a C. And if you were Irish, you got a D. Mr. Francioli.
Truly, it's a real pleasure to be here with you. I often think of my students, and I was talking to some of the boys here. People come up to me and say, Mr. Francioli, you were at Benedictine, weren't you? Weren't there some rough, tough kids over there? I said, no, all the kids I had were good kids. And you know what? This proves it right here. You're all good people, wonderful people. You worked hard, and I'm pleased that I had something to do with it, maybe. Yes. Some small way. But if I made you think, you know, classes are 40 minutes.
That's right.
So,
we didn't listen then.
See, I have a small piece of paper. I won't be long, but I must tell you.
Take your time.
I must tell you thing. First of all, how did the teachers look at the students? I know how the students looked at the teachers. They felt they were either boring, didn't know what they were doing, which is common for teenage kids, you know. They think they know it all. They don't even know why they're going to school. They don't need school. And they can take care of themselves. They don't need anybody. And I found that to be true, too. But in any case, I'm proud to be here with you, really. And I just wanted to tell you a few things. The kids come up to me, you know, on the street. No matter where I go, I meet them. Honest to God. I was in Canada. I met kids. I was down in an Army reunion in Texas. I met former students every place. But they come up to me and they hit me in the back. Hey, you remember me, Mr. Francioli? I said, sure, I remember you. I said,
Thank you.
if you just tell me your name, I'll tell you where you sat. They say, yeah. So they tell me, it happens right here. And I hit where, I said, sure. What's your last name?
Sternick. Michael Sternick.
Sternick. And is it Sternick? Of course. You sat in the second row on the left of me, near the blackboard. He says, yes, how did you remember? Dumbhead. I said everybody alphabetical. I know that the A's over here. So, I don't know if you knew what kind of a school you went to, boys, really. Although you must have, because you all turned out so well. What happened, I could write a book, but no one would believe it. First of all, did you know that Father Lawrence went over to the hospital for kids across the street, and he asked the lady there if he could come and minister to the kids. And she says, yeah, but you'd have to get your permission from. So he went to the Father Abbot, yeah, you could go. So he went, now those kids are really handicapped. They come into Mass on wheelchairs and on what do you call those flat things that they move around? Gurneys, tables. And he invited me to come there and have Mass with him. I said, okay, Father. I said, it's a very nice thing you're doing. So I went there, and honestly, it was an experience I'll never forget. Those kids, when they saw Father, they said, well, hello, Jesus. How are you, God? And he said, no, you're not getting the message, you know. I talk about that, but that's not me. And they hugged him, and I tell you, it was just touching. So Christmas time comes, and he asks the caretaker there if he could bring them some presents. And he said, sure, you could bring them presents. So he had something like $10, he tells him, in his pocket. And he takes the streetcar. They didn't even have a car for him. He goes down to the warehouse district, you know, downtown. In those days, it was full of novelty stores and so forth. And he stops in one of them, and he said, listen, I want to buy some presents for some handicapped kids. And the guy says, oh, yes. He says, I have $10. Could you get me something for each one? There's 40 of them. And the guy says, do you have a truck? He says, yeah, I can get one. We have one at the Abbey. He says, you bring it here, and I'll make sure you get your $10 worth. You trust me? He did. Of course, you know what happened. Well, they thought he was God. They thought he was Jesus. When he came with the presents, right? They knew.
They convinced them.
But that's only one case. You know, the Benedictine High School took in a kid that was in a wheelchair long before anything about, you know, the handicap. And as the story goes, the monk, I believe it was Father, the airplane father. Right?
Yeah.
No,
Methodist. No, the method.
Method. But it was Method, or somebody that, it must have been Method. Talk to the principal. The principal says, oh, we can't do that. We're not equipped. We don't have an elevator, and we don't have special, you know, they need special teachers, and so on. He says, no, they don't. He wants to come to a Catholic school, and we got to take him. After all, we're Christian, and everything's fine. Say, all right, no more. We'll take him. So the idea was this. One kid, the kids, there were 3 kids that were assigned to Dempsey, was his name. And 3 kids were assigned to him. And one kid would pick him up and physically bring him to the classroom. The second kid would bring the wheelchair. And the third kid would bring all the books that accumulated by this time. And they would fight to get that job, to get out of classroom. And so this is how they did to them. And what happened to them? Well, the kids didn't treat him any different than they treated the other ones. They punched him in the body, they pulled his hair, they called him names. And he learned to fight back. And whenever he'd see him, he'd punch him, you know, and this, what I'm saying is, they made a man out of him. He graduated from Benedictine with very good scores, and I heard from him later, he finally went to college, would you believe, and made a good name for himself. He wound up in some business job. That's one. But then the other father, Mark, you know the father that used to teach aeronautics. Gregory.
And then Ronald later.
And then Gregory came in with a blind kid. And you know the same story. We can't do this, we can't. And the father pleaded, you know, and said, we're a Christian school and we don't do, you know. And he gave him he couldn't resist. So they took this blind kid, he had tape. He taped everything. They gave him his tests orally. I don't know if you remember these guys. Do you remember them? Maybe they were before you or after you. But this guy did well.
Most of the guys in our class were deaf. They never heard anything.
That's the kind of school they had. And that's the kind of school, and that's the kind of spirit that they imbued in you. And it was a pleasure for me to be there for 11 years. You'll forgive the garb. I belong to an organization that raises money for the troops by buying phone cards and sending them a $50 phone card. So after I leave here, I'm going there. But thank you for inviting me. You do wonderful work. You've got a beautiful organization. I can feel in the air, whatever it is.
Love. Spirit.
And spirit. And God bless you. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for putting up with me.
The last thing I remember from you was, way back, I like you. Because I like you, I'm going to do you a favor. Jug. That's the last It's true.
If you didn't discipline the kid, but the discipline kid that took time and effort, and you wanted him to do better.
Thank you.